Well, Premier Doug Ford is threatening to cut off energy supply to the U.S. in response to the tariffs threatened by U.S. President-elect Donald Trump.
The comments came after a meeting between the feds and Canadian premiers as they wrestle with a threat of 25% tariffs on goods going to the U.S. unless they shore up our borders.
Chrystia Freeland's going to put a list together. We're going to put our list together, and I'm sure the other provinces will as well. But we will go to the full extent, depending how far this goes. We will go to the extent of cutting off their energy, going down to Michigan, going down to New York State, and over to Wisconsin. I don't want this to happen, but my number one job is to protect Ontarians and Canadians as a whole, since we're the largest province.
A number of premiers spoke out strongly in favor of a robust Canadian response to unjustified tariffs. Some premiers proactively identified products that their provinces produce and export to the United States, and which the U.S. relies on, and which should be considered as part of the Canadian response. This included some critical minerals and metals.
It's apparent that the Trump administration, genuinely, the incoming Trump administration, genuinely believes that tariffs are going to be a source of revenue by which they can float their budget. And I think that's, clearly started to dawn on premiers. And so now they're talking about how it actually works on their side of the border, on our side of the border. And in effect, you're starting to hear people say, well, if they impose tariffs and if we begin to retaliate, here's how it ought to break down in terms of interregional fairness. So we're starting to feel the effects already of Trump's tariffs well before they've been imposed.
Meanwhile, billionaire and close ally of Donald Trump, Elon Musk, posting on X that Trudeau is, quote, such an insufferable tool, won't be in power for much longer, end quote. Musk was responding to a video posted of Trudeau in which the Prime Minister described Kamala Harris's U.S. presidential election loss as a setback for women's progress.
Meantime, Premier Doug Ford was also asked about Trudeau's comments about the U.S. election and feminism.
They aren't helpful at all, and yes, it was brought up I'm not going to say who said what, but it was brought up a couple times, and in our meeting, it's not helpful at all. Donald Trump was elected democratically. If you like him or you don't like him, that's not our issue. We elect Canadians, and it was not helpful whatsoever. And I'm sure Prime Minister got the message loud and clear.
And we'll be hearing from the Premier again this morning. He's expected to speak at a government building downtown Toronto later on.
Doug Ford has called a news conference for 10 o'clock. It's not known what he'll be speaking about, but he will be joined by Health Minister and Deputy Premier Sylvia Jones and Municipal Affairs and Housing Minister Paul Calandra. The Attorney General and Solicitor General will also be there.